Thank you, Chairman Grassley, for convening today's hearing, and thank you to all the witnesses for taking time to be here. I'm proud to be a co-sponsor of the Chairman's bill, and I agree that both deterrence and a coordinated response are essential to addressing the issue. We know organized retail crime and supply chain crime have been a growing problem in recent years. So as my time before I came to the U.S. Senate, I was president and CEO of the Business Council of Alabama. This is something we dealt with our members across the state. And we learned that it's a multifaceted problem, and it poses law enforcement, economic, and national security challenges. While these activities involve theft, in which and of itself is a crime that must be addressed, one of my concerns is to the extent in which organized crime in the retail and supply chain area are carried out in furtherance of additional illicit crimes. And so to the extent in which that often involves a sophisticated criminal network, my first questions are for Mr. Gowie and Ms. Steffen. Based on your experience, what are some of the downstream illicit activities that are tied to or furthered by the retail and supply chain theft?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. What we do know is when, for example, our ORCA, our Organized Theft Task Force, does these investigations, hundreds of search warrants, it's not uncommon to find the retail theft goods along with guns and drugs.
Okay.
So we see that interconnection right there. We don't have the federal tools currently to be able to then tie those to specific activity and to what cartels, what organized crime is involved in this particular shipment that we have right there. And that's where the bill that you're supporting really can come into play and help us. We also know just from our experience that the intersection of crime, we know that cartels in Mexico, they work with our Mexican mafia, which is our MA, and they then issue orders to our local gangs, which then control the human trafficking activity. It's very hard to separate. These criminal organizations are there based on greed and profit. And wherever they can do that, that's what they're doing. They are not always specialists, just specialists in retail theft. In a recent case that we did that had the South American theft groups that were linked to hundreds of residential burglaries, especially targeting our Asian communities, where they would watch as they're in their business and they would attack their homes while they were away. They would survey. In those cases, you know, they had pictures on social media, that same group, with guns and with inviting escort services, which is really human trafficking and other things. So the intersections abound, and I think that having those connecting the dots at a federal level will allow us to see the whole framework and be able to then attack that monster in a better, more precise, strategic way.
Thank you so much, Ms. Steffen. And Mr. Galli, before you answer, not only the downstream illicit effect, but also how does this fit into the larger picture of these transnational criminal organizations, and kind of speak directly to that as well?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And actually working on the transnational organized crime strategy under 2 administrations, I can speak specifically how important it is to have centers so the intelligence and the operation coordinating can be put together. The national security threats in transnational criminal organizations cannot be stated more emphatically, that we need these centers to be able to run this information against classified databases to understand if these are being sponsored by nation states, being it North Korea, Iran, China, Russia, or these are by terrorist organizations. We know all too well this committee had oversight on the Lebanese Hezbollah bulk cash smuggling involving vehicles in 2010, 2015 era. There's historical cases that show the model works, but you have to have a center. Oversight is appropriate, where you can run classified and unclassified data together that brings state, local law enforcement, federal, and the private sector together to identify those criminal networks that are associated with the highest threats to the homeland.
And let me ask you in my few remaining seconds, you obviously mentioned the center. Can you speak to any gaps in information sharing that may need to be addressed, and how we actually, through the coordination and creation of this center, can work to actually fill those gaps?
So this, every center from the Organized Drug Enforcement Task Force to the Counterterrorism Center that we know well, the models works, there will take time for the policies and the strategies to get in place, and of course the correct oversight and the legal parameters that go with it. But the public-private sector partnership is critical, but also bringing together disparate law enforcement organizations from the Federal Bureau of Investigations, Homeland Security Investigations, to CBP, and our national security partners to identify the threats that are the biggest to the United States is critical, and the center is a good first step.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for being here. I have some more questions, but I will submit those for the record.